Scheherazade's stories. Tonight's story is about watching and being watched. No one ever asked Leo to stay. That was a detail he didn't notice at first. People asked him questions. They asked what he did for work, how long he'd be in town, whether he liked the city, whether he preferred coffee or tea. They asked polite questions, practical questions, safe questions. But no one ever said, stay. Not directly. Leo learned early that staying was something you did only if someone made it necessary. Otherwise, leaving felt cleaner, simpler, less risky. He told himself this was maturity, independence, a refusal to cling. The truth was quieter. Staying meant being seen after the initial impression wore off. Staying meant being present when the version of yourself you preferred stopped being convincing. So Leo moved. Not dramatically, not impulsively, just often. Different apartments, different cities, different versions of the same cafés, the same streets, the same conversations repeated with new faces. He was good at beginnings. He knew how to arrive. The woman noticed this immediately. They met in a place designed for passing through, a small train station cafe with plastic chairs and windows streaked by rain. Leo had missed his connection by 11 minutes, not long enough to justify leaving, not short enough to feel accidental. He ordered coffee he didn't want and sat near the window, scrolling through his phone without reading anything. She sat across from him without asking, not directly across, slightly to the side, close enough to share the table, far enough not to impose. "You're not staying long," she said, stirring her tea. Leo looked up. "Excuse me?" She smiled politely. "You're already leaving in your head." He laughed softly. "I'm just waiting for the next train." She nodded. "That's what I mean." Leo studied her. She wasn't staring at him. She wasn't watching him closely. She spoke the way someone spoke when they weren't trying to convince you of anything. "Do you do this often?" he asked. She raised an eyebrow. "Sit in cafes?" "No," he said. "Tell strangers what they're thinking." She considered this. "Only when they're very obvious." Leo leaned back. "And what makes me obvious?" "You're sitting near the exit, your bag is zipped, your coat is still on, and you haven't put your phone down once." He glanced at his phone, then set it face down on the table without thinking. She noticed. She didn't comment. They sat in silence for a moment, the kind that wasn't uncomfortable yet, but could become so if left unattended. "I'm Mira," she said eventually. "Leo," he replied. "Are you from here?" "No," he said automatically. She smiled. "Of course." The train station announcement echoed faintly through the space. Another delay, another apology. Leo sighed. "You sound disappointed," Mira said. "I just don't like waiting," he replied. She nodded. "Most people don't. Waiting forces you to stay somewhere without pretending it was a choice." Leo frowned. "You make it sound like a trap." "It can be," she said gently, "if you don't know what you're avoiding." That unsettled him. He finished his coffee quickly. "Well," he said, standing up, "nice meeting you." She didn't protest. She didn't ask where he was going. She didn't say stay. "Safe travels," she said instead. Leo hesitated, just for a second. Then he nodded and walked away. He saw her again 2 weeks later. Different city, same pattern. A temporary co-working space, long tables, neutral walls, people pretending to focus while listening to other people's conversations. Leo had been there 3 days, long enough to learn where the outlets were, not long enough to know anyone's name. Mira sat 2 seats away, typing slowly. He froze. "That's impossible," he muttered. She looked up and smiled, unsurprised. "You left without saying goodbye," she said. Leo sat down heavily. "You followed me?" She shook her head. "You always come to places like this." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have," she said calmly. He stared at her. "Who are you?" "Someone who stays longer than you," she replied. That irritated him more than fear would have. They didn't talk much that day, just small comments, observations, things said without expectation. And again, when Leo packed up early, she didn't stop him. She only said, "You're leaving before the conversation gets complicated." Leo paused, backpack slung over one shoulder. "Do you enjoy this?" he asked, pointing it out. She met his gaze. "Do you enjoy proving me right?" He left without answering. Over the next months, their paths crossed again and again. Not constantly, not predictably. A bookstore, a late-night grocery store, a lecture neither of them attended fully. Each time she noticed when he was about to go. Each time she named it. "You're done here. You're about to disappear. You're already saying goodbye." And each time she never asked him to stay. That was the strangest part. Leo began to feel watched, not in a threatening way, in a way that felt precise. "You don't want anything," he said once, sitting beside her on a park bench. She smiled faintly. "That's why you keep talking to me." He hated how true that felt. "You never ask questions," he continued. "You never push." She shrugged. "You don't respond well to pressure. You think you know me?" "I observe patterns," she said. "You fit one." He crossed his arms. "And what happens to people who fit your patterns?" She looked at him thoughtfully. "They either stay long enough to change them, or they don't." Leo laughed. "And you?" "She stay," she said simply. That night, Leo lay awake in his rented apartment, staring at the ceiling. He thought about how many places he'd slept in that weren't his, how many conversations he left unfinished, how many people he remembered only vaguely because he'd never stayed long enough for them to matter. He told himself it was freedom, but freedom, he realized, usually felt lighter than this. The first time he stayed because of her wasn't intentional. They were sitting in a quiet bar, music low, glasses clinking softly. Leo felt the familiar restlessness arise, the urge to leave before the moment asked too much of him. He shifted. Mira noticed. "You're about to go," she said. Leo opened his mouth, closed it. "I know," he said. She waited. He didn't move. The moment stretched. His chest felt tight, uncomfortable, exposed. "It feels wrong," he admitted. She nodded. "It usually does." "Why?" he asked. "Because staying removes your excuses," she said gently. He stayed another 10 minutes, then 20. Nothing dramatic happened. No confession, no confrontation, just time passing. And somehow that felt like the hardest part. Leo started noticing the moment before he left places, the breath he took, the shift in posture, the way his mind prepared explanations. Sometimes he left anyway. Sometimes he stayed. Mira never commented on which choice he made. She only noticed that he noticed that he noticed. One evening, sitting by the river, Leo finally asked, "Why don't you ever ask me to stay?" She looked at him for a long time before answering. "Because if I did," she said, "you'd prove you still could." Leo swallowed. "And if you stay on your own," he asked. "Then it means something," she replied. That night, when Leo returned to his rented apartment, he didn't pack his bag. He left it open. Days passed, then weeks. For the first time in years, Leo stayed in one place long enough for routines to form, for people to recognize him, for his absence to be noticed when he wasn't there. It terrified him and grounded him. One afternoon, he returned to the train station cafe where they'd first met. Mira was already there. "You stayed," she said. "I'm trying," he replied. She smiled. That was enough. Leo never stopped feeling the urge to leave. He just learned to recognize it before obeying it. And Mira never once asked him to stay. She didn't need to, because now he knew when he was choosing to go and when he was choosing not to.